The entire town thought the young bride was just another frightened woman, until two armed outlaws fell to the ground before anyone else could even draw a weapon. Silence filled the dusty street. The sheriff stepped forward, staring at the revolver still smoking in her hand, and asked one question that changed everything. "Who taught you to shoot like that?" Her answer would uncover a heartbreaking past no one saw coming. Stay until the end, because this story proves that the deepest scars often create the strongest people. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every like and subscription helps us bring more unforgettable Wild West stories of courage, faith, and redemption. The wedding day in the little frontier town of Red Creek had begun like any other. The church bell echoed across dusty streets lined with wooden storefronts. Horses stood tied outside the saloon and general store, and families gathered wearing their finest clothes to celebrate the marriage of 22-year-old Emily Carter and local rancher Jacob Turner. For the first time in years, laughter filled the town square. Emily wore a simple emerald green wedding dress trimmed with white lace. She smiled politely, but those who looked closely noticed something unusual. While every bride seemed nervous before marriage, Emily remained remarkably calm. Her eyes constantly studied the streets, rooftops, and distant hills as though she expected danger long before anyone else did. Jacob often teased her about always watching her surroundings. "You can finally relax," he whispered with a smile. "Today is the happiest day of our lives." Emily smiled softly but said nothing. Deep inside, she had learned long ago that peace could disappear in a single heartbeat. Just as the newly married couple stepped onto the church porch, the peaceful celebration shattered. Two masked outlaws rode into town at full speed, firing pistols into the air. People screamed, children ran for cover. Merchants dove behind wagons. The sheriff reached for his revolver, but one outlaw fired first, knocking the weapon from his hand before he could react. Jacob instinctively stepped in front of Emily. "Stay behind me!" But before anyone understood what was happening, Emily gently moved him aside. In one smooth motion, she pulled the small revolver hidden beneath her wedding dress. The first outlaw fired. Emily fired once. His revolver flew from his hand. The second outlaw turned his horse toward her. Before he could shoot, Emily fired again. The bullet struck his shoulder, sending him crashing into the dusty street. Silence, absolute silence. Smoke drifted through the warm afternoon air. The frightened horses slowly settled. Every person in town stared at the young bride standing calmly with the revolver still lowered at her side. Even the sheriff looked speechless. He had spent 25 years chasing criminals across the frontier. He had never witnessed shooting that fast, or that precise. Slowly, the sheriff walked toward her. His eyes never left the revolver, neither did anyone else's. Finally, he stopped only a few feet away. His voice carried across the silent street. "Who taught you to shoot like that?" Emily's hands trembled for the first time that day. She looked down at the dusty ground. Pain slowly filled her eyes. When she finally spoke, her quiet answer carried more sorrow than anyone could have imagined. "My father." She paused, struggling to breathe. "Because he knew one day there would be no one left to protect me." The crowd fell completely silent. In that single moment, the fearless bride no longer looked like a mysterious gunslinger. She looked like a daughter carrying years of hidden heartbreak, and the truth behind her remarkable skill was only beginning to unfold. The dusty street remained silent long after Emily's answer. Even the captured outlaws lowered their eyes. Sheriff Walter slowly picked up the revolver she had dropped and handed it back with newfound respect. "Your father must have been an extraordinary lawman," he said quietly. Emily shook her head. "No," she whispered. "He was only a farmer who wanted his daughter to survive." The crowd listened as she revealed the painful story she had hidden for years. When Emily was just 12, a gang of ruthless bandits attacked their isolated homestead. Her father knew help would never arrive in time, so every evening after finishing work in the fields, he taught her how to handle a revolver, not because he wanted her to fight, but because he prayed she would never have to. He always repeated the same words: "A gun is never for revenge. It's only to protect innocent life." One terrible autumn evening, The outlaws returned. Her father and mother gave everything they had to protect her, allowing Emily to escape through the back fields while they faced the attackers alone. She never saw them alive again. From that day forward, she carried not only her father's revolver but also his final lesson. She never drew it in anger, only when someone else's life depended on it. Tears filled the eyes of many townspeople. Only minutes earlier they had looked at her with suspicion. Now they understood she wasn't proud of her skill. Every accurate shot reminded her of the family she had lost. Sheriff Walter removed his hat in respect. "Young lady," he said softly, "today you didn't just save your husband. You saved this entire town." Jacob gently took Emily's trembling hand. He finally understood why she sometimes woke frightened during storms and why she always sat facing the door in every room. She had never been fearless. She had simply learned to keep moving despite her fear. The sheriff turned toward the gathering crowd. "No one here will ever question this woman's courage again." Slowly, one by one, the townspeople nodded. Suspicion disappeared, replaced by admiration. Emily realized that for the first time since losing her parents, she no longer felt like someone running from her past. She had finally found people willing to see the truth instead of judging appearances. And although the painful memories would never disappear, they no longer had to be carried alone. The days after the gunfight changed Red Creek forever. Emily was no longer remembered as the mysterious bride who carried a revolver beneath her wedding dress. She became known as the courageous young woman whose strength had saved innocent lives. The same people who had once whispered about her now greeted her with respect whenever she walked through town. Sheriff Walter often told newcomers, "Never judge a person's past before hearing their story." Those words quickly became part of the town's character. Emily and Jacob built a peaceful life on their ranch. Together they welcomed travelers, fed hungry families, and offered work to those trying to rebuild their lives. Emily taught the local children an important lesson her father had given her long ago. True strength is not found in how quickly you can draw a weapon, but in knowing when not to. She never celebrated violence. Instead, she honored her parents by choosing kindness whenever she had the chance. One Sunday, the sheriff visited the ranch carrying a small wooden box. Inside was a silver deputy's badge presented as a symbol of the town's gratitude. Emily smiled warmly but gently shook her head. "I don't need a badge," she said. "The greatest reward is knowing no child lost a parent that day." Sheriff Walter nodded with respect. He realized her courage had never been about becoming a hero. It had always been about protecting others, just as her father had taught her. As the sun disappeared behind the western hills, Emily stood beside Jacob on the porch of their ranch house. She looked toward the horizon and quietly whispered, "Father, your lessons didn't create revenge. They created hope." At that moment, she finally felt peace replacing years of pain. Her scars would always remain, but they no longer controlled her future. They had become reminders that love, sacrifice, and courage could outlive even the darkest tragedy. Sometimes, the strongest people are those who never wanted to fight at all. They simply refused to let evil have the final word. And sometimes, one quiet answer is powerful enough to silence an entire town and replace judgment with understanding. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes kindness and courage can still change the world. We'll see you in the next Wild West story.